War Commander Zethka stretched his 4 powerful arms and clicked his razor-sharp claws against the metal armrest of his command chair. His black eyes swept across the bridge of his flagship, watching his crew work at their stations. The Kthvar were born hunters, and today promised to be a good day for hunting. "Report," Zethka commanded, his voice a deep growl that made lesser species tremble. "Sir, we have found prey," announced his sensor officer, excitement clear in her chittering voice. "A single human vessel, roughly 2 kilometers ahead. It appears to be a cargo ship, and it's moving slowly." Zethka's mouth split into what humans might mistake for a smile, showing rows of needle-sharp teeth. The Kthvar had ruled the outer regions of the galaxy for 300 years. They were fast, smart, and deadly. Most importantly, they had no fear. Every other species in known space either served them or avoided them completely. Humans were new to space travel. According to intelligence reports, they had only left their homeworld 50 years ago. They were soft creatures with pink skin and no natural weapons. Their ships were basic, their technology simple. Perfect prey for the Kthvar hunting fleets. "Show me," Zethka ordered. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a large human ship drifting through space. It was big and blocky, clearly built for carrying cargo rather than fighting. The ship's metal hull was dull gray, with human writing on the side that read UES Meridian. Several small lights blinked along its surface, but otherwise it looked dead in the water. "Energy readings?" Zethka asked. "Minimal, sir. Basic life support and engines only. No weapon signatures detected. The ship appears to be having technical problems." "Perfect." Zethka turned to his communications officer. "Signal the rest of the pack. Tell them we have found easy prey. 6 ships should be more than enough to handle 1 broken human cargo vessel." Within minutes, 5 other Kthvar cruisers moved into position around the human ship. Each cruiser was a deadly work of art, designed to strike fear into any enemy. Their dark hulls were covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. Sharp spikes jutted from their surfaces like the spines of some deep space predator. Zethka had commanded this hunting pack for 10 years. They had captured over 50 ships and taken thousands of slaves. The humans they caught would be sold to mining colonies or forced to work in weapons factories. Their ship would be stripped for parts and metal. It was a profitable business, and the Kthvar were very good at it. "Sir, the human ship is sending out a distress signal," reported the communications officer. "Let them call for help," Zethka laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "There are no other human ships for light years in any direction. By the time anyone receives their message, they will already be our prisoners." The sensor officer looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm reading 30 life forms aboard the target vessel. All human." "Excellent. 30 new slaves will bring a good price at the markets." Zethka stood up from his command chair, his full height of nearly 3 meters making him tower over his crew. "Begin standard boarding procedures. Disable their engines and life support. I want them alive, but helpless." "Yes, sir!" The weapons officer's claws danced across her control panel. "Targeting their engine section now!" The first energy beams lanced out from the Kthvar ships, striking the human vessel's rear section. Small explosions bloomed along the hull as the shots hit their targets. The human ship's few lights flickered and went dark. "Direct hits on their main engines," the weapons officer reported. "The ship is dead in space." "Good. Now target their communications array. I don't want them calling for help anymore." More energy beams struck the human ship. A tall antenna on the ship's top section exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. "Communications destroyed, sir." Zethka nodded with satisfaction. This was going exactly as planned. The humans were probably terrified right now, huddled in their ship waiting for the inevitable. He had seen it many times before. First came shock, then fear, then the desperate attempts to surrender. "Prepare boarding pods," Zethka commanded. I want 200 warriors ready to go. Full combat gear, but set weapons to stun only. Dead slaves are worthless slaves. Sir, shouldn't we demand their surrender first? Asked a young officer. Zethka's black eyes fixed on the junior officer with cold amusement. Surrender? From humans? These creatures barely know how to fight their own kind, let alone real warriors like us. They will surrender the moment they see us coming through their airlocks. The bridge crew chittered with laughter. Everyone knew the stories about human combat abilities. They were slow and weak, relying on simple weapons and basic tactics. Most species considered them barely more dangerous than the prey animals they had evolved from. Besides, Zethka continued, this is good training for our newer warriors. Let them practice on soft targets before we face real opponents. The tactical officer brought up a holographic display of the human ship. The image rotated slowly, showing potential boarding points marked in red. I recommend we hit them here, here, and here, she said, pointing to 3 locations. Standard 3-point assault should overwhelm any resistance in minutes. Agreed. Assign Alpha, Beta, and Gamma squads to the boarding action. I want the ship secured within 10 minutes of contact. Sir, what about prisoners? Should we take the entire crew? Take the young and strong ones. Kill any who resist. Leave the old and weak behind. We don't have room for useless mouths. This was standard procedure for the Kthvar. They had perfected the art of raiding over generations. Hit fast, hit hard, take what you want, and leave nothing behind but empty shells drifting in space. The boarding pods launched from the Kthvar cruisers like bullets from a gun. Each pod carried 20 warriors in full combat armor. Their target was a defenseless human cargo ship with a crew that probably had never seen real combat. Time to breach? Zethka asked. 2 minutes until contact, sir. Zethka settled back into his command chair to watch the show. This would be over soon, and then they could continue their hunt for more prey. The Outer Rim territories were full of isolated ships and small colonies. Each one was a potential source of profit for those strong enough to take what they wanted. The human ship grew larger on the screen as the boarding pods approached. Still no movement, no signs of life. The crew was probably hiding in the deepest parts of their ship, hoping the monsters would pass them by. They wouldn't. Contact in 30 seconds, announced the tactical officer. Zethka smiled his predator's smile. Another hunt was about to end successfully. The first boarding pod slammed into the side of the human ship with a loud crash that echoed through both vessels. Cutting beams quickly burned through the hull, creating a perfect circle of molten metal. Within seconds, 20 Kthvar warriors poured through the breach into the human ship's corridors. Squad leader Kthvar was the first through the hole. His enhanced vision adjusted instantly to the dim lighting inside the human vessel. He raised his plasma rifle and scanned the empty hallway ahead. Strange. Usually there would be at least a few crew members running around in panic by now. Alpha Squad is aboard, Kthvar reported into his communication device. Corridor 7A is clear. No contacts. Behind him, his warriors spread out in perfect formation. Each Kthvar soldier wore powered armor that made them even more dangerous than nature had already designed them to be. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their enhanced senses could detect the slightest movement or sound. But the hallway remained silent. Moving toward the bridge, Kthvar reported. Still no sign of the crew. The second and third boarding pods hit the human ship at the same time. Beta and Gamma squads breached the hull in 2 other sections and began their own advance into the vessel. Like Alpha Squad, they found only empty corridors and silence. On the bridge of his flagship, War Commander Zethka frowned at the reports coming from his boarding teams. This wasn't normal. Even the most cowardly species usually put up some kind of fight when cornered. Where were the humans? Sir, all 3 squads report the same thing, said his communications officer. Empty corridors, no resistance, no contact with the crew. Are they hiding deeper in the ship? Zethka asked. Unknown, sir. Our warriors are advancing toward the center sections now. Inside the human ship, Captain Sarah Chen crouched in a hidden observation post behind what looked like a normal wall panel. Through a tiny camera, she watched the alien soldiers moving through her ship's corridors. They were impressive creatures, she had to admit, nearly 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating, with 4 arms that could each hold a weapon, but they were walking into her trap. "Beta team is in position," whispered Lieutenant Torres through her earpiece. "Gamma team ready," added Sergeant Kim. "Hold positions," Chen replied quietly. "Let them get deeper into the ship. We need them all inside before we spring the trap." The UES Meridian looked like a simple cargo vessel from the outside, and even from the inside if you didn't know what to look for. But appearances could be deceiving. Every wall panel, every corridor, every room had been designed with one purpose in mind: intelligence gathering. Hidden cameras recorded every movement the alien warriors made. Concealed sensors analyzed their weapons, their armor, their tactics. Data about Kthvar military capabilities flowed into secure storage cores throughout the ship. This information would be worth more than gold to the human military. Chen watched as the alien squad leader examined a control panel near the ship's center. The creature's movements were quick and efficient. Professional. These weren't mindless raiders, but trained soldiers. That made them more dangerous, but it also made the intelligence they were gathering more valuable. "Sir, Alpha Squad has reached the main cargo bay," reported Kthvar. "The area appears to be filled with standard trade goods. Food, raw materials, basic manufactured items. No sign of the crew." War Commander Zethka was growing irritated. Where were the frightened humans? Where were the desperate pleas for mercy? His warriors had been inside the ship for over 5 minutes, and they still hadn't found a single crew member. "Expand the search," he commanded. "Check every room, every storage compartment. They must be hiding somewhere." But Captain Chen and her crew weren't hiding. They were hunting. 20 meters away from the alien squad leader, Lieutenant Martinez pressed himself against the wall behind a fake cargo container. His enhanced hearing could pick up every word the aliens spoke. The translation software in his helmet converted their clicking, chittering language into English in real time. "This is wrong," one of the alien soldiers was saying. "Too quiet. Too empty." "Humans are cowards," replied another. "They probably locked themselves in the ship's safe room and are waiting for us to leave." "Maybe. But I've boarded a dozen ships, and this feels different." The squad leader cut off their conversation. "Enough talk. Beta Squad, report. Beta Squad here. We've reached the engineering section. No contacts. The humans must have shut down all non-essential systems before we arrived." What the aliens didn't know was that the ship's systems had been designed to look damaged when they were actually running perfectly. Every computer, every sensor, every piece of equipment was functioning normally but disguised to appear offline. Chen smiled as she watched more aliens enter her ship through the breached sections. 60 warriors were now inside the Meridian. Nearly a third of the enemy's total boarding force. Soon, it would be time to show these predators what humans were really capable of. "All teams, check in," she whispered into her communication device. "Team 1 ready," came the reply from Sergeant Rodriguez. 12 aliens past our position. We have them surrounded." "Team 2 in position," reported Lieutenant Foster. 16 targets in our section." "Team 3 ready to go," added Corporal Jackson. 20 aliens in the cargo bay." Chen nodded. Her 30 crew members had been training for this moment for months. Each one was a veteran of the Colonial Defense Force, specially selected for this mission. They weren't cargo haulers or merchant sailors. They were soldiers, and very good ones. "Sir, we've found something?" Kthvar's voice crackled over the Kthvar communication channel. "There's a sealed door here that our scanners can't penetrate. It might be their safe room." "Excellent. Breach it immediately," Chen watched as the alien squad leader approached the door in question. It was actually the entrance to the ship's armory, but the aliens couldn't know that. When they broke through, they would find something very different from what they expected. "Breaching charges set," reported Kthvar. "Stand back." The explosion echoed through the ship's corridors. Metal fragments scattered as the heavy door was blown inward. Smoke poured out of the opening, and the alien warriors raised their weapons, ready to face whatever was inside. Instead of frightened humans, they found rows of empty weapon racks and armor stands. The room was clearly military in nature, but it appeared to have been hastily emptied. "Sir, this isn't a cargo ship," Kthvar said slowly. "This is a military vessel disguised as a trader." On his flagship's bridge, War Commander Zethka felt the first touch of unease. If this was a military ship, where was its crew? Where were its weapons? Why hadn't it fought back? "All squads, maintain alert status," he ordered. "Something is not right here." But his warning came too late. Captain Chen keyed her communication device and spoke a single word: "Execute." Throughout the Meridian, hidden panels slid open to reveal armed human soldiers. Team 1 emerged from concealed positions behind the aliens in Corridor 5. Team 2 rose from fake cargo containers in the main bay. Team 3 dropped from ceiling panels they had been hiding in for 20 minutes. The hunt was about to become a battle. And the predators were about to discover they had chosen the wrong prey. The first alien to die never saw it coming. Sergeant Rodriguez stepped out from behind a fake cargo container and put 3 rounds from his rail pistol through the creature's chest armor. The hypervelocity slugs punched through the Kthvar's protective plating like it was made of paper. Green blood splattered the corridor wall as the 8-foot warrior crashed to the deck. All around the ship, the ambush unfolded with deadly precision. In Corridor 5, Lieutenant Foster and her team caught 12 alien warriors in a crossfire. The Kthvar tried to return fire, but their plasma rifles were designed for intimidating weaker species, not fighting trained soldiers in close quarters. Human combat armor absorbed their shots, while human weapons tore through alien defenses. "Contact! Contact!" Squad leader Kthvar screamed into his communicator as bullets sparked off his armor. "We're under attack! This is not a cargo ship! Repeat, this is not a cargo ship!" But War Commander Zethka was too busy dealing with his own problems to respond. On the bridge of his flagship, alarm sirens began wailing. The main screen showed impossible readings from the space around his fleet. Energy signatures were appearing out of nowhere, massive ones that indicated the presence of large warships. "Sir, we have multiple contacts," his sensor officer shouted over the noise. 12 ships, no, 14 ships appearing around us." "Impossible! Our sensors showed empty space." "Sir, they're decloaking human ships. Military class." The space around the Kthvar fleet shimmered like heat waves rising from hot metal. One by one, human warships materialized from nothing, their hulls gleaming with advanced stealth technology that should not have existed. The ships were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Sleek white hulls marked with blue and gold human symbols, weapon ports glowing with contained energy, sensor arrays that could track a single fighter across an entire star system. But it was the UES Meridian itself that provided the biggest shock. The supposedly damaged cargo ship's hull began to shift and change. False panels fell away to reveal hidden weapon ports. Disguised sensor arrays extended from concealed compartments. The blocky, ungainly cargo vessel transformed into something that took Zethka's breath away. It was a human stealth destroyer, one of the most advanced warships in known space. "Sir, the Meridian is powering weapons," his tactical officer reported. "Multiple missile tubes, rail cannons, and plasma projectors coming online." "How is this possible?" Zethka demanded. "Our intelligence reports said humans were technologically inferior." His answer came in the form of a communication from the human ship. Captain Chen's face appeared on his main screen, calm and professional despite the battle raging inside her vessel. War Commander Zethka, she said in perfect Kthvar language. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You have attacked a military vessel of Earth and attempted to enslave its crew. This act of piracy will not go unpunished. You dare, Zethka began, but Chen cut him off. Your intelligence about humanity is 50 years out of date, she continued. We have been watching your raiding fleets for months. We know your tactics, your weapons, your weaknesses. Today, you learn the cost of preying on innocent ships. The communication ended, and hell came to the Kthvar fleet. The first human missiles struck 3 of the alien cruisers simultaneously. The weapons moved so fast that the Kthvar point defense systems couldn't track them. Explosions bloomed along the sides of the alien ships as human ordnance tore through their hulls. Rail cannon fire followed seconds later. The projectiles traveled at a significant fraction of light speed, hitting their targets before the sound of the guns firing had even faded. Kthvar armor plating, designed to stop conventional weapons, offered no protection against kinetic rounds moving at such incredible velocities. "Return fire!" Zethka screamed. "All ships, return fire!" His fleet tried to respond, but they were completely outmatched. Human warships moved with impossible grace, their pilots executing maneuvers that would have killed most organic beings. Advanced computer systems predicted Kthvar firing patterns and adjusted course accordingly. Meanwhile, inside the Meridian, the boarding battle was reaching its conclusion. The Kthvar warriors were brave and skilled, but they had walked into a carefully prepared trap. Every corridor had been designed to funnel them into killing zones. Every room had been prepared as a potential battleground. Corporal Jackson dropped 3 more aliens with his assault rifle as they tried to retreat toward their boarding pods. Team 3, this is Jackson. Cargo bay is secure. 15 enemy down. No human casualties. Team 2 here, reported Lieutenant Foster. Engineering section clear. 20 aliens eliminated. We're moving to support Team 1. In the main corridor, Sergeant Rodriguez and his soldiers were finishing off the last of the alien boarders. The Kthvar had fought hard, but they were used to facing frightened civilians, not trained military personnel. "Alpha Squad, report!" Kthvar called desperately into his communicator. But Alpha Squad would never report again. They were scattered across 50 meters of corridor, their advanced armor no match for human weapons designed to kill, not capture. The squad leader himself was pinned behind an overturned cargo container, green blood flowing from a wound in his shoulder. He had lost half his warriors in the first 30 seconds of fighting. The rest had died trying to retreat. "Surrender," came a calm voice from behind him. Kthvar turned to see a human soldier pointing a rifle at his head. The creature was small compared to a Kthvar, but there was something in its eyes that made the alien warrior's blood run cold. "You fought well," the human continued, "but it's over. Drop your weapons, and you'll be treated according to the laws of war." Kthvar looked around at the bodies of his soldiers scattered throughout the corridor. These humans weren't the weak, cowardly prey his species had expected. They were something far more dangerous. He dropped his rifle. Outside in space, the battle was reaching its own conclusion. 3 Kthvar cruisers had been completely destroyed, their wreckage spreading in glowing clouds of metal and plasma. The remaining 3 ships were badly damaged and trying desperately to escape, but human ships were faster. "This is Admiral Torres of the UES Retribution," came a new voice over the communication channel. "Kthvar vessels, you are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to flee will result in your destruction." War Commander Zethka stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His proud hunting fleet, which had terrorized the Outer Rim for years, was being systematically destroyed by creatures he had considered barely worth hunting. "Sir, what are your orders?" his weapons officer asked. Zethka said nothing. For the first time in his life, the apex predator had become the prey. And he was learning that it was a very different experience from the other side. The humans had been hiding their true strength, waiting for someone foolish enough to test them. Today, that someone had been him. Around his flagship, human warships closed in like sharks, sensing blood in the water. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their patience was at an end. The hunt was over, and the Kthvar had lost. War Commander Zethka watched his world collapse in real time. The tactical display on his flagship's bridge showed the brutal efficiency of human military technology. Red icons representing his ships blinked out one by one as rail cannon fire and guided missiles found their targets. Each disappearing dot represented 500 Kthvar warriors who would never return home. "The cruiser Terror's blade is breaking apart," reported his communications officer, her voice high with panic. "I'm reading massive hull breaches on all decks. She's venting atmosphere and crew." Through the bridge's main view screen, Zethka could see the death of his ship. Human weapons had torn completely through the Terror's blade from bow to stern. The once mighty cruiser spun helplessly through space, trailing debris and frozen bodies in its wake. A second explosion lit up the darkness as the ship's main reactor went critical. The Terror's blade became a brief new star, burning bright and hot before fading into scattered particles of metal and vapor. "Sir, incoming missiles!" the weapons officer screamed. "Point defense, full spread!" Zethka commanded, but he knew it was useless. Human missiles didn't behave like normal weapons. They moved in impossible patterns, seeming to think and adapt as they flew. Kthvar point defense systems, designed to stop simple projectiles, couldn't track weapons that changed direction every few seconds. The first missile struck the flagship's port side, punching through armor plating that had been forged in the heart of a star. The explosion sent shockwaves through the entire ship. Emergency lights flickered as power systems struggled to compensate. 2 more missiles followed seconds later, each one finding weak points in the ship's defenses with surgical precision. Zethka felt the deck plates vibrate under his feet as internal bulkheads collapsed. "Damage report," he demanded. "Port weapons array is completely destroyed," came the reply. "We've lost main shields on that side. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Casualty reports are coming in from all sections." The war commander turned his attention back to the tactical display. Of his original 6 ships, only his flagship and 1 cruiser remained functional. The others were either destroyed or drifting powerless through space. In less than 10 minutes, humanity had accomplished what no other species had managed in 300 years. They had broken a Kthvar hunting fleet. "Sir, the human fleet is moving to surround us," his sensor officer reported. 14 ships, all maintaining weapons lock. They're not even damaged." It was true. Despite engaging 6 heavy cruisers, the human ships showed no signs of battle damage. Their shields had absorbed every shot the Kthvar had fired. Their armor had turned aside plasma beams that should have melted through any hull material. "How?" Zethka whispered. "How are they so advanced?" His answer came from an unexpected source. The human captain, Chen, appeared again on his communications screen. Behind her, Zethka could see the bridge of her ship. It was clean and efficient, operated by humans who moved with calm precision even in the middle of battle. "Commander Zethka," Chen said, "I'm going to explain something that your intelligence networks never discovered. Humanity has been in space for 50 years, yes, but we have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know violence in ways your species cannot imagine." The screen split to show images from human history, battlefields covered with bodies, cities burning under aerial bombardment, massive armies clashing across continents, weapons of such destructive power that they could destroy entire planets. "We learned to kill each other with sticks and stones," Chen continued. "We perfected the art of war with gunpowder and steel. We brought death from the sky with aircraft and missiles. We created weapons that could end all life on our world, and we came close to using them." More images flashed across the screen. Human soldiers fighting in every environment imaginable. Desert, jungle, Arctic wasteland, underwater, even in the vacuum of space around their own planet. When we reached the stars, we didn't stop fighting. We simply found new places to practice the skills we had spent millennia perfecting. The ships you see around you represent the evolution of human warfare. Every system, every weapon, every tactic has been tested in battle against our own kind. Zethka stared at the images in growing horror. His species had achieved spaceflight by conquering weaker beings. They had never faced real opposition, never been forced to innovate or adapt. They were apex predators in a galaxy full of prey animals. But humans were something different. They were apex predators who had spent their entire history fighting other apex predators. "Sir, the remaining cruiser Bone Render is requesting permission to surrender," his communications officer reported. "Denied!" Zethka snarled. "Kthvar do not surrender." "Sir, with respect, Kthvar also don't usually face extinction," she replied quietly. As if to emphasize her point, 3 human missiles streaked past the bridge viewports, heading straight for the Bone Render. The cruiser's point defense system managed to destroy 2 of the incoming weapons, but the third struck home. The explosion tore the ship's command section completely away from the main hull. Atmosphere rushed out in a glittering cloud of ice crystals and debris. The Bone Render died with her crew still at their stations. "Sir, we're the last ship," the sensor officer announced unnecessarily. Zethka looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Fear was something Kthvar rarely experienced, but he could see it now in their eyes. They had spent their entire lives believing they were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. In 10 minutes, humanity had shattered that belief forever. "Incoming transmission from the human fleet," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." This time, a different human appeared on the screen, an older male with gray hair and cold blue eyes. The rank insignia on his uniform indicated he was an admiral, probably the commander of this human task force. "I am Admiral Torres," the human said. "You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender your vessel. Any hostile action will result in your immediate destruction." "And if we surrender?" Zethka asked. "You will be treated as prisoners of war according to human military law. Your crew will receive medical treatment. You will be held until suitable prisoner exchanges can be arranged with your government." Zethka almost laughed. Prisoner exchanges. The Kthvar had never taken prisoners. They had never needed to negotiate for the return of captured warriors because they had never lost a battle. 20 seconds, Admiral Torres continued. "I should mention that we have been studying your ship's design for the past several minutes. Our weapons are now targeted at specific points that will cause maximum casualties while keeping the ship relatively intact. We would prefer to take prisoners, but we are prepared to add your ship to the debris field if necessary." The war commander looked at his tactical display one more time. 14 human ships surrounded his single vessel. Each one was capable of destroying his flagship single-handedly. His weapons were damaged, his shields were failing, and half his crew was dead or injured. For the first time in Kthvar history, surrender was the only logical option. "Power down all weapons," Zethka ordered quietly. "Drop shields. Prepare for boarding." His crew stared at him in shock, but they obeyed. Within seconds, the flagship's guns went silent. Its shields collapsed. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red as the ship's main power systems shut down. "Smart choice," Admiral Torres said. "You fought well, Commander. Your warriors showed courage even when facing impossible odds. They deserve better than to die for nothing." The transmission ended, leaving Zethka alone with his thoughts and the weight of 300 years of Kthvar supremacy crashing down around him. Outside his ship, human fighters began their approach. Soon, human soldiers would board his vessel and take him prisoner. The hunter had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days later, Captain Sarah Chen sat in her ready room aboard the UES Meridian, recording a message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The battle was over. The debris field where 6 Kthvar cruisers had died was already spreading across several million cubic kilometers of space. The surviving aliens had been processed as prisoners of war and were being held in comfortable but secure quarters aboard human ships. War Commander Zethka himself was in the medical bay, recovering from wounds suffered when his ship's bridge had lost atmosphere during the battle. Human doctors had saved his life, something that still seemed to confuse the proud warrior. In his culture, defeated enemies were not shown mercy. But then again, his culture had never met humans before. Personal log, Captain Sarah Chen, commanding UES Meridian, she began, speaking into the camera that would carry her words across the galaxy. Mission designation Shadow Hunt has been completed successfully. All primary and secondary objectives achieved. She paused, thinking about how to phrase what came next. The words she spoke now would be heard by intelligence agencies across known space. Every major power would analyze her message for hints about human capabilities and intentions. The Kthvar hunting fleet designated Pack 7 has been neutralized. 6 heavy cruisers destroyed, 1 captured intact. Prisoner count, 27 enemy combatants, including the pack commander. Human casualties, 0 killed, 3 wounded, all expected to make full recoveries. The numbers told the story better than any dramatic speech could. A single human task force had completely destroyed a Kthvar hunting fleet without losing a single person. It was a level of military dominance that few species could comprehend. Chen stood up and walked to the viewport behind her desk. Outside, she could see the captured Kthvar flagship being towed by human vessels. Its hull was scarred and blackened from the battle, but the ship itself was surprisingly intact. Human weapons had been precisely controlled to disable rather than destroy. "I want to be very clear about what happened here," Chen continued. "This was not a chance encounter. For the past 6 months, Task Force Shadow has been tracking Kthvar raiding activities in the Outer Rim territories. We have detailed intelligence on 12 separate hunting fleets, their movement patterns, their preferred targets, and their tactical doctrines." The camera recorded her every word as she turned back toward it. Her expression was calm and professional, but there was something in her eyes that would send chills down the spine of any alien who saw this recording. "The attack on my ship was not unexpected. It was invited. The UES Meridian served as bait to draw Pack 7 into a predetermined kill zone. Every aspect of the engagement was planned and controlled by human forces." She moved to a wall display that showed a tactical overview of the battle. Red icons marked where each Kthvar ship had died. Blue icons showed the positions of human vessels throughout the engagement. "I am transmitting complete tactical data along with this message. Weapons performance, shield effectiveness, sensor capabilities, maneuvering characteristics. Every government that receives this information will be able to analyze exactly how this battle was won." The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just revealing that they had won a single battle. They were openly sharing their military capabilities with potential enemies. It was either supreme confidence or supreme stupidity, and Chen's calm demeanor suggested it was the former. "Some of you may be wondering why we are sharing this information so freely," she continued, as if reading their thoughts. "The answer is simple. We want you to know exactly what you would be facing if you chose to prey on human ships or colonies." She walked back to her desk and sat down, leaning forward slightly toward the camera. For 50 years, humanity has maintained a policy of peaceful expansion. We have traded fairly with all species who approached us in good faith. We have shared our technology and knowledge freely with those who showed us the same courtesy. We have asked for nothing more than the right to exist peacefully in our corner of the galaxy. Behind her, through the viewport, the wreckage of alien ships drifted past like a constellation of broken dreams. But some species have chosen to see our peaceful nature as weakness. They have attacked our merchant vessels, enslaved our citizens, and treated human space as their personal hunting ground. To those species, we deliver this message. Your mistake has been paid for in blood and stardust. The recording paused while Chen brought up another display. This one showed star charts marking human territory, but with additions that would shock any intelligence analyst who saw them. Human space is no longer limited to the systems you see in your outdated charts. We have been expanding quietly for decades, establishing military bases and supply depots throughout the outer rim. The ships you see here represent only a small fraction of the human colonial defense force. She highlighted several star systems on the map, each one now marked with human military symbols. Task Force Shadow is one of 12 similar fleets currently operating in this sector alone. Each fleet is capable of destroying any force of comparable size. Each fleet has been watching and learning from the species that have chosen to raid human shipping. The camera zoomed in on Chen's face as she delivered the heart of her message. To the governments and military leaders who will analyze this recording, understand this. Humanity does not want war. We have seen enough warfare in our own history to know its true cost. But we are very, very good at it when forced to defend ourselves. She stood up again, her hands clasped behind her back in a military posture that somehow made her seem larger than her actual size. Any further attacks on human vessels or citizens will be met with the full response of the human colonial defense force. We will not negotiate with pirates. We will not pay ransoms to slavers. We will not tolerate any species that preys on the innocent, whether human or alien. The message was clear, but Chen wanted to make sure there was no misunderstanding. We are transmitting the location of the nearest Kthvar military base along with this recording. Within 72 hours, a human delegation will arrive to discuss the return of prisoners and reparations for previous attacks on our shipping. We recommend that they be received with appropriate diplomatic courtesy. She paused, allowing the implications of that statement to sink in. Humanity knew where the Kthvar kept their main military forces. They had intelligence networks that had penetrated deep into alien space. They were not the isolated primitive species that most governments believed them to be. To conclude, Chen said, I want to share a quote from our military doctrine that may help explain human thinking on these matters. The best way to prevent war is to be so obviously prepared for it that only the most foolish would consider attacking you. She moved to shut off the recording, then seemed to think of something else. One final note. War Commander Zethka asked me how humanity had become so advanced so quickly. I told him the truth. We have been fighting wars since before we discovered fire. Every human weapon, every human tactic, every human strategy has been tested in blood against our own species. Her expression grew cold as she delivered the final words. We learned to kill efficiently because the alternative was extinction. We became apex predators because anything less meant death. We are peaceful because we know the true cost of war. But never ever mistake our desire for peace as an inability to wage war. The recording ended. Within hours, copies would be transmitted to every major government in known space. Intelligence agencies would spend months analyzing every frame, every word, every gesture. Military leaders would demand new assessments of human capabilities. Diplomats would recalculate their strategies for dealing with this suddenly dangerous neighbor. But the message would be understood by all. Humanity had revealed itself as the new apex predator of the galaxy. And unlike the species that had come before them, humans combined overwhelming military power with a moral code that might just make the galaxy a safer place. For those who chose peace, humanity would be a valuable ally. For those who chose predation, humanity would be the last mistake they ever made. The age of preying on the weak was over. The humans had arrived, and they were very, very good at their job.